Hey everyone, and welcome to, well, this deep dive. We're diving into Elba today, and it looks like you're planning a trip. Lucky you, we've got a great mix of resources for this one. We've got what looks like a travel pamphlet, a map, even a quote about Elba that has me very curious.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
Well, and what I think is so fascinating about Elba is that it's so much more than just, a pretty island.
Okay.
It's the largest island in the Tuscan archipelago.
Wow.
The third largest in all of Italy.
Okay.
And get this, it actually used to be connected to Corsica.
No way.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Big island.
Okay, so first things first, where is Elba exactly?
So you find it nestled right off the Tuscan coast of Italy, surrounded by these beautiful kind of channels of, that beautiful blue water that separates it from the mainland and the other islands in the archipelago. And did you know it's all part of a national park, this incredible national park.
National park. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm already intrigued. And I love that the pamphlet describes Elba as a geological sampler platter.
Yeah.
Beaches, mountains, mines. Sounds like they've got a little bit of everything.
They really do. And it's all thanks to this unique geology.
Okay.
You have basically 3 distinct regions that make up Elba.
Okay.
All shaped by different forces over millennia. So on the western side, you've got this area dominated by Monte Capan, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
You've got the central plain kind of in the middle. And then the eastern part, which is actually the oldest section of the island, known for its mineral wealth. And those fascinating mines that we're going to get into a little later.
And speaking of fascinating, this picture of a beach you included.
Yes.
It looks absolutely incredible.
Gorgeous.
White sand, turquoise water. I mean, postcard perfect.
Absolutely.
I'm already dreaming about those marine excursions this pamphlet mentions.
Right.
Any idea what those might be?
Well, because Elba has this really fascinating underwater world.
Okay.
I imagine these excursions could involve anything from, exploring these secluded coves to, diving down to shipwrecks.
Wow.
It really just depends on kind of what you're after,
Oh.
how adventurous you are.
Okay, now you've got me thinking about shipwrecks off the coast of this beautiful island.
Right.
There's got to be stories there.
Oh, I'm sure.
But before we get too sidetracked, let's jump into the commune highlights.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this pamphlet starts with a quote from Van Gogh about fishermen and storms.
Okay.
Which, I have to admit, is not what I was expecting.
Interesting. How intriguing.
How does this tie into Elba? I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it definitely sets the scene.
It does.
Maybe it's alluding to Elba's historical connection to the sea.
Okay.
Its resilience in the face of challenges.
I like that.
Or even a sense of adventure that still kind of lingers there today.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Speaking of resilience, the pamphlet mentions Cape Oliveri, which is this charming town perched high on a hilltop.
Yes.
167 meters above sea level.
It's amazing. And that hilltop location wasn't just for the views.
Really?
No, Cape Oliveri actually started as an Etruscan Roman fortress.
Oh, wow.
So imagine way back then, having that 360-degree view over the coastline.
Right.
Talk about a strategic advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep an eye on their enemies.
Wow, I bet the view was incredible back then.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Although, I mean, it sounds like it's pretty incredible now, too.
It still is, yeah.
The pamphlet mentions trekking, mountain biking on the Calamita Promontory.
Beautiful.
And, of course, those beaches.
Of course, yeah.
So you've got history, you've got stunning views.
You got it.
You've got outdoor adventures all in one spot.
Yep. It really speaks to how places just evolve over time.
It does.
From this strategic fortress to a hub for, relaxation and adventure. It's pretty amazing.
It is really cool. And speaking of adventure, let's talk about Monte Capan.
Yes.
Okay, I'm all about this cable car ride to the top.
Fun.
Can you imagine the photos you would get from up there?
Oh, I can only imagine. Well, and the view from the summit is supposed to be just incredible.
Okay.
You can see the pamphlet says not only all of Elba,
Wow.
but also neighboring islands like Capraia, Monte Cristo, Pianosa, Giglio, and even Corsica.
No way.
All the way to Corsica, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
It's a photographer's dream.
Oh my goodness, that's incredible. But for those who prefer a more, how should I say, grounded experience, there's always the GTE.
Yes.
The Grande Traversata Elbana.
Yes.
And I'm guessing grande means it's not a casual stroll in the park.
No, 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 not at all.
Okay.
The GTE is no walk in the park.
Okay.
It's a challenging trail that traverses the entire island.
Wow.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The trail actually follows historical routes
Oh, wow.
that islanders used for centuries.
Wow.
So it gives you a real feel for Elba's past.
Okay, you had me at historical routes.
Yeah.
And we actually have a picture of the GTE.
Beautiful.
Oh, my goodness. Look at those wildflowers.
Stop.
You can practically feel the sea breeze.
I know, right?
This is going straight on my Elba bucket list.
It's incredible.
But, those mountains, they're not just about the scenic views. They also hold this hidden history, a time when Elba was a hub of industry.
It's true, yeah. Elba's mining past is a far cry from its image today as this, vacation paradise.
I bet.
The pamphlet highlights 3 mines in particular that give you a really, I think, fascinating glimpse into this industrial side of the island.
Oh.
So we've got Vallone, Ginevro, and Laghetto del Conche.
Okay.
Each one very, very different.
Now, the Miniere del Vallone sounds almost eerie.
It does, doesn't it?
Abandoned machinery just standing in stark contrast to the natural landscape.
Yeah.
The pamphlet even mentions an eerie silence.
I love that. Yeah, that silence, I think, speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It does.
A powerful reminder of how quickly industries can decline. And
Right.
in Vallone, it was an open pit mine. So that explains kind of the dramatic visual impact it has.
Okay.
This kind of scar on the landscape.
Right.
But a fascinating window into the past, too.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago either, right? I
Yeah.
mean, this mine closed in 1981.
Very recent.
Which, that feels really recent.
It does. Makes you wonder what it must have been like for the people who worked there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And their families and the whole,
Exactly. The whole community.
But, okay, let's move on to the Miniere del Ginevro.
Okay. Yes.
And this one's completely different, right?
Completely.
This is Elba's only underground mine.
The only one.
Um,
And it just so happens to be home to the largest magnetite deposit in Europe.
Wow, the largest in Europe.
Yeah, which really highlights how important Elba was to the mining world.
Wow, okay, now I'm picturing myself venturing down into these tunnels, wearing a hard hat, hearing stories about the miners who toiled down there.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? Would you be brave enough to go underground?
I think I would have to be pretty brave to venture down in those tunnels.
Yeah.
It's a completely different world down there. Dark, confined.
Right.
It makes you appreciate the hard work and frankly, the risks those miners endured.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
And to round out our mine exploration, we have Laghetto del Conche.
Yes, yes.
Now, this is not your average lake.
No.
We're talking vibrant red and violet hues.
Beautiful.
It sounds almost otherworldly.
I know. And you know what? Those colors come directly from that mining past.
Okay.
So the lake actually formed in this former mine pit.
Right.
And those iron-rich minerals are what give the water that really unique color.
Wow. It's amazing how nature adapts, and reclaims these spaces.
I mean,
creates something so unexpected.
it's incredible.
And beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah.
But it also kind of makes you stop and think about the impact we have on the environment, doesn't it?
For sure. It really makes you think about the legacy we leave behind, both positive and negative.
Right. Speaking of legacies, we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right?
What this pamphlet has to offer.
There's so much more.
We haven't even touched on like marine excursions,
Yes.
Elba Imperiale with its Napoleonic ties.
Right.
And of course, what's that last one? Cuisine.
The food. Don't forget the food.
Hold on a second.
Yes.
Elba has vineyards.
They do.
Okay, hold on. Vineyards.
Yes.
And the pamphlet mentions dipping grapes in the sea.
Yes.
Tell me more about that because I am dying to know.
Yeah. It's true. There are some really fascinating techniques that they're experimenting with in Elba's vineyards. Apparently, some winemakers are using the sea's natural salinity to create a unique flavor profile and reduce the need for sulfites.
A dip in the ocean instead of sulfites. Okay, I've never heard of anything like it.
I know, right?
It sounds like these Elba winemakers are really in tune with their environment.
Absolutely, yeah.
But okay, before we get lost in the vineyards.
Yes, let's
circle back to those mine visuals.
Yes.
Because we've got 3 very, very different snapshots here.
Yeah, it's quite a contrast, isn't it?
It is.
You go from, idyllic beaches to these kind of industrial landscapes. It really speaks to the diverse character of Elba.
Absolutely. So first up, we've got Valone.
Yes.
And those rusting structures, like perched on the cliff edge.
Dramatic.
It's almost like post-apocalyptic, right?
It really is.
You've got these, like, crumbling buildings against the backdrop of the sea.
Yeah.
Talk about a dramatic scene.
It's really a stark reminder of the impact of industry, that's for sure.
It is.
And, Valoni being an open pit mine really
Yeah.
explains kind of the dramatic visuals we're seeing here.
Yeah.
It's almost like a scar on the landscape, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's fascinating to see how nature's like slowly starting to reclaim that space.
Yeah.
Little by little.
It's pretty cool.
Yes.
Okay, next up is Ginevro, our underground celebrity.
Yes.
This photo shows those minecarts in the tunnel, and it just looks massive.
It's huge.
You weren't kidding about the scale of this place.
No, it's
It
extensive.
gives you a real sense of like the sheer depth and complexity of the mining operation.
I know, and imagine the effort it took to extract all those minerals.
Can't even imagine.
The history, the tools they used back then, the working conditions.
Oh, yeah.
They were tough.
It's a world away from the sun-drenched beaches, that's for sure.
Completely different world.
Okay, last but not least, we have the Laghetto delle Conche.
Yes.
And this is what I call a photogenic lake.
Oh, stunning.
That surreal red against that, like, colorful hillside.
Beautiful.
It looks like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does, like out of this world, right?
It does.
And it's all thanks to those, iron-rich minerals like hematite and limonite that give that water that really striking red and violet hue.
Wow, it's so cool. It's a perfect example of how nature can just create something truly breathtaking.
I know.
From, what we might consider industrial waste.
Exactly, yeah.
It's pretty cool. And you know what else is unexpected?
What's that?
Finding out that Napoleon was exiled to Elba.
Right.
Of all the places.
I know. You think they'd send him somewhere a bit more, I don't know.
Remote,
yeah.
Yeah.
Desolate.
Yeah.
But, Elba has a surprisingly rich history.
Okay.
It's been ruled by everyone from the Etruscans and Romans to the Spanish and even the British at one point.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah, all the way back to the Etruscans.
Wow. Okay.
As for Napoleon,
Yeah.
he only spent, about 300 days on the island.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But his presence is still felt today. Yeah. You can visit his residences, see his throne, even his bicorn hat.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
A bicorn hat?
Yeah.
Like his actual hat?
His actual hat.
Now that's something I'd want to see.
I know, right?
Wow, it sounds like Elba Imperiale could be its own deep dive.
It really could.
And speaking of deep dives, we haven't even touched on those marine excursions.
Oh, yes. The sea.
What can you tell us about Elba's underwater world?
Well, the pamphlet mentions this stony beach.
Okay.
That's perfect for snorkeling and diving. I'm imagining crystal clear waters, vibrant ecosystems just waiting to be explored.
Okay.
And don't forget about those shipwrecks we talked about.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Who knows what treasures and stories are beneath the surface.
Okay, you've sold me.
Yeah.
I'm adding marine excursion to my ever-growing Elba bucket list.
Good.
As we speak. But hold on a second. My stomach is starting to rumble.
Oh, yes.
I think it's time we talk about cuisine.
Yes. And what better place to start than those sea-kissed grapes?
Right.
I mean, this method of immersing the grapes in seawater actually dates all the way back to ancient Greece.
Wow. Right.
Yeah. It's all about osmosis.
Okay.
The salt from the seawater enters the grapes, adding that unique flavor, but it also acts as a natural preservative.
Okay, so it's like a crash course in both history and science.
There you go.
All in one delicious grape.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fascinating.
Great.
So we've got the sea-kissed wine, but what about the food itself?
Yes.
What culinary delights await us in Elba?
Well, for seafood lovers,
yes,
there's something called palomita.
Okay.
It's a type of bonito fish that's often preserved in olive oil.
That sounds delicious.
Right. They also have something called polpai albani,
okay,
which is basically boiled octopus served with a fork.
Boiled octopus, huh?
Simple, but I bet delicious.
That sounds like an adventure for my taste buds.
Right. I'm sensing a theme here.
Maybe.
You're up for anything, aren't you?
Hey, I'm all about embracing new experiences.
I love it.
Especially when it comes to food.
That's great.
But, after all this, after this deep dive,
yes,
I think I'm ready to just experience all of Elba.
Yes.
The history, the landscapes, the adventures, even that eerie silence in those abandoned mines.
He's calling you.
It's calling my name.
I can tell.
I have to say, diving into Elba with you has been quite the journey. From those mountaintops to the underground tunnels, ancient fortresses to those sea-kissed vineyards.
Yeah, it's been quite the adventure, hasn't it? And we've really only just scratched the surface of what this island has to offer.
I know, right? Like you said earlier, Elba's a place that's just full of surprises.
Absolutely.
Who knew there was so much more to uncover beyond those stunning beaches, right?
It's a good reminder that, the most rewarding journeys are often those that take us beyond what's expected.
That's very true.
And in Elba's case, those unexpected discoveries just seem to be everywhere.
They really do. Well
Yep.
said.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've given our listener plenty to think about, maybe even a few additions for their itinerary.
I hope so.
Right, listener?
Yes, listener.
Those marine excursions sounded pretty tempting, didn't they?
Oh, and who could resist trying some of that sea-kissed wine
I know, right?
and that Paul Albani?
I mean, but before we get totally carried away with our Elbin daydreams,
Yes.
I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
But before we do, any final words of wisdom for our listener as they embark on their own Elbin explorations?
Words of wisdom. I would say go in with an open mind.
Okay.
Be prepared to be surprised. And most importantly, don't forget your camera.
Oh, yes.
You're going to want to capture every moment of this incredible island.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Embrace the unexpected, explore beyond the obvious, and who knows, you might just stumble upon Elba's next hidden gem.
Absolutely. And if you do, be sure to let us know.
Yes, please.
Thanks for joining us on this Elbin adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Until next time, happy travels.